Well, we have new collectors coming into the hobby at an incredible pace, and it's exciting to be a part of that. So after a year and 15,000 views on this last video, I thought it's a perfect time for a reissue. So we're going to look back at this classic, how to and where to buy Hot Toys again. Well, what's up everyone and welcome back to the channel. Yes, it's true. We're going to be looking at a reissue today, a reissue of one of my old videos. Now I went back and looked and it's been over a year since I've talked about this topic and 15,000 views as I mentioned earlier, and I thought it might be time to refresh it for some new collectors out there. We got a little bit of new guidance that we can give you, maybe a few things you can glean. But before we get into that, I do want to say, if you're a long-time lurker out there, I say this every single time, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, turn on your notifications so that you know when new content drops. I'd certainly appreciate it. And also, if you have viewed the original version of this video, let me know down below. I always appreciate repeat customers. So with that being said, let's stop and let Jack Nicholson's Joker from Batman 1989 ask this important question.
Where does it get those wonderful toys?
So let's go ahead and answer that question that Jack asked us. Where do we get these wonderful toys? Now, if you're going to go and buy a Ford truck, most likely you would go down to a Ford dealership. So with that being said, if you're looking to buy some Hot Toys, of course you're going to go down to the Hot Toy store? Well, that would be great if such a thing existed. But what you may or may not know is that Hot Toys is manufactured and distributed out of Hong Kong, China. Now, whenever there is a brand new release or anything like that, all the locals and the YouTube bloggers will go out and get their day one pre-orders at a place called Secret Base or Echo Base, which is a local spot in Hong Kong. Now, there are a few other distribution places out there, and you can have your day one pre-orders as well if you're willing to pay a premium. But if you are stateside or outside of Hong Kong, you need to find another option. You need to find yourself a distributor.
Yes, that's what we need. We need a distributor now. Do you know anyone like that?
Yeah, I mean, I used to, until you killed him.
Ah, yes, the term official distributor, that buzzword that's been floating around the community recently. But what I can tell you is that there is a safe official distributor of Hot Toys if you are stateside or in North America, and that is Sideshow Collectibles. Now, there are pros and cons to every avenue when it comes to finding different places to get your Hot Toys. But what I can say that if you do decide to go with Sideshow Collectibles, there is an option for a payment plan. You can spread your payments out, so that way you don't have to pay it all up front. They got a pretty decent reward system, so if you buy a bunch of product, naturally you're going to get some discounts, so that's always a good thing. There's a great thing called customer service and a peace of mind that comes from those. Because it's an official distributor, if something is wrong with your figure, they will make sure that you get it right. So there's something to be said about a peace of mind. Sometimes that is more valuable than anything. But there are also some cons. Because they are stateside, you have to get these from Hong Kong, and that's going to take a little bit of time. If you're the type of person that says, I need my figure right away, then maybe Sideshow isn't the best option for you, because it sometimes can take up to 2 to 3 months for inventory to actually get into Sideshow. The other con that you have to think about is that there are no deep discounts available. At most, you may get some free shipping. At best, you might get 20% off of an item. But one thing I will say is that when you have Sideshow in-stock items, the price that you have there is kind of going to be the price that you ultimately end up paying. So I saw a poll recently where people said, do you want your orders quick or do you want the best deal possible? And with that being said, an overwhelming majority said, I want my figures at the cheapest rate possible. So what is a way to do that? How do you get some heavily discounted figures? Well, then you may need to look at some of the Hong Kong resellers. Now, this has certainly been a fun topic within the community recently, and we're going to talk about getting your figures directly from Hong Kong. Now, let me officially say that these are not distributors nor official sources from Hot Toys. They are resellers. And with that being said, that you will most likely be paying a premium and a markup to get your figures early. Now, when you're choosing which company that you want to go with, I recommend always to check and do your research. Always be informed when it comes to making the best decision for you. Now, personally, I've used Pop Collectibles in the past and continue to use them. I've gotten dozens and dozens of figures from them, and as I've said before, I've had one issue that we were able to sort through, and that is that. Now, make sure to do your research. One thing I do like about Pop Collectibles is that you do have an opportunity to check out their reviews on Trustpilot. I've actually left a review on there. Go ahead and check it out, and if that's the option for you, then by all means go ahead and go that route. But when you are dealing with resellers, here are some other things you need to keep in mind. Yeah, you get the figure first, and that's awesome, but you will be paying most likely a premium to get it first. You're going to pay a little more than what retail is. Now, you do have to also consider international postage, which, I don't know if you've checked recently, but is kind of high right now. So getting anything from Hong Kong to where you're at is going to cost you a little bit more. With that being said, because it is coming straight from Hong Kong, if a figure is not selling, you could get some heavy discounts. As we talked about, when you get it from Sideshow, pretty much what Sideshow listed as is exactly what you're going to end up paying. But if a figure is sitting in Hong Kong and it's not selling, you can find insane deals on those figures. And if that is the main thing for you, getting the best deal, then perhaps you want to check out some of these resellers and see if that works for you. But as I said, although there's some pros, there are some cons. If you happen to go that route and you happen to get it lost in the mail, not much you can do. If you happen to get another broken figure or something, because these are not official distributors, it's going to be a very big challenge to try to get that figure fixed. Now, as I've said, I've worked with Pop Collectibles and they've done some great things and try to make it right if there ever is an issue, but you still run the risk of there not being an official distributor. So at the end of the day, make sure you do your research. Make sure you make the best decision that makes sense to you. Don't be swayed because someone said you need to go this route. Do your research, make the best decision for you. But let's talk about another option of where to buy hot toys, and it's the one that people don't like talking about that often. That is eBay. Now, yes, of these figures in my collection, I have gotten quite a few from eBay. Now, there's some pros and cons that come along with that as well, naturally. Some of the pros is that you have a giant marketplace to be able to find a lot of figures that you're looking for. Now, you also have a little bit of buyer protection when it comes to eBay. Say you happen to place an order, place a bid, you win the bid, you buy it now, whatever it may be, and the figure comes and it's broken or it's got something that it wasn't described as having. With that being said, most likely eBay will side with the buyer and make sure to take care of you. Now, nothing's 100% for sure, but there is a nice buyer protection. But although you can find great deals, sometimes you do get into a bidding war. And if you do find somebody else that really wants the figure too, you could potentially end up paying more than what it actually kind of goes for on the secondary market. So be careful when you get involved with bidding wars, but also keep an eye out for great deals when someone's trying to offload a collection. eBay is not as evil as people think it may be. Yes, I understand if you're selling, sometimes you'll get hit with a bunch of extra fees, but that is the nature of the beast. It's a giant pool that you are pulling from, so naturally they want their cut too. So if you're looking for something, a harder to find figure, or just trying to test the market, eBay is definitely worth taking a look at. So if you are going to go the eBay route, here are some things that I would highly recommend that make your experience better and help you have a nice peace of mind. The number one thing I would highly recommend is make sure you buy from somebody with positive feedback. Look to see if there are negative reviews or things said about the seller. Do not buy from somebody with negative feedback. Always make sure to check on that. If it's less than 100%, I would steer clear. Now, there are always those things that do happen, so if it's around 98, 99, cool, that makes sense. Look how many things they've sold and look at the feedback. Don't get yourself stuck with a bad seller. With that being said, also make sure the seller is putting real pictures up. Don't let it be a Sideshow picture or just something from a website. Make sure it's in-hand photos. I want to see the box. I want to see the figure. I want to make sure that what is coming to me is what is actually pictured. That will help you when it comes to the buyer protection if something were to go wrong. I will also say, if you're stateside, do not buy anything from overseas. It's just too risky and there's not a lot of benefit to do so. But with that being said as well, always avoid pre-orders from eBay. There is no sense to be ordering or pre-ordering anything from eBay. Go to an actual channel distributor. Make sure you're getting a real pre-order. So now that we've talked about the where to buy hot toys, I think it's important to talk about the when to buy hot toys. And the most important thing to understand is the hot toys release cycle and production runs. With that being said, when you go and you see here it is. Here is a figure that is going to be revealed. Here, get your pre-orders in, and everyone rushes out for their day one pre-order. Now, this is going to be your decision that you have to make, but I do not see the point as of right now of getting involved with day one pre-orders. They're too far out in advance, there's too much that can happen, and do you really want your non-refundable deposit tied up for 2 years on a figure that you may or may not like when it's finally released? With that being said, you'll get a reveal, you'll get day one pre-orders, and then you have to kind of wait and sit and decide if that is something you really want. What I recommend is that when a figure is officially released, that means you can actually go and get it from Secret Base, from a reseller, from Sideshow. Then you can go and make the decision on whether you want the figure or not. Decide based on the photos, decide based on the reviews if this is something you want. Now, there is nothing that is certain for sure because, of course, there are some limited runs. I think about the Arena Boba Fett that recently came out. People like, I'll wait on that, and what do you know? It's sold out. Now, there's no way to know if that's going to be the standard when it comes forward, but I would highly recommend just waiting to see when something is finally released. Now, there is an opportunity that if something does go out of stock or gets put on wait lists for you to be added back to it, if it's something you think that you cannot miss out on, and once again, this is for you and your collecting, if it's a figure you can't miss out on, then perhaps you may want to consider a pre-order. If that makes sense to you, then sure, go ahead, day one pre-order it, ensure that you will get that figure. But keep in mind, if you are locked in on that pre-order, you could potentially lose your non-refundable deposit if you don't want the figure later on, and then you're locked into that price. So you may not decide to go and get it at a deep discount. So those are some things to consider on the when to buy Hot Toys. But the number one thing I can make is make sure it makes sense to you. Buy it when you want it. Don't get it because someone told you about it. So that leads me to the final point that we're going to be making about on how to buy Hot Toys. This hobby can certainly be a rabbit hole if you're not careful. Remember, I've said it before, you've heard it on multiple channels and streams, no one ever buys just one. So once you get that first hot toy in your hand, you start handling it, you say, wow, I really like these. And before you know it, you look around and you are swamped with all kinds of figures, sometimes things that you don't even want, and that is one of the things that we need to avoid when it comes to how to buy Hot Toys. But the number one thing I would say when it comes to how to buy Hot Toys is find your budget and stick to it. That is the most important thing because this should be a hobby that is fun. Collecting should be fun at the end of the day. You shouldn't be labeled and put down with stress, wondering whether or not you're going to be able to make your mortgage or your car payment because you have too many pre-orders. Find your budget and stick to it. I've also hinted at find characters and collect figures that you actually like. Don't ever get something because someone else told you to, because you saw a review and you said, wow, if I get this, maybe if I post it on my Facebook page, I might get some more follows, I might get more people to like me. Don't waste your time with that. Fill your collection with something that you want. You should never walk into your collection, as I've said before, and not have an attachment to the figure. Each one of these figures in my collection, after I've made a few purges recently, I can say I have a connection to and I have a story with. Buy figures and characters that you want. The third thing I would say, and I touched on it on my last little point about when to buy Hot Toys, is maybe if there's a figure you really can't miss out on, then sure, go ahead and pre-order it, because it'd be much better to get it at retail than if you do miss out on it and you say, oh my goodness, I missed it, and now I have to pay the secondary market and pay the upsell. Much better to get it at retail than have to overpay for it later on, because although these are not investments, I've said that multiple times, you do have a good chance of a figure retaining the value. So if you think you want a figure, you pre-order it, comes in, and you can say, I really don't want this, there's a good chance you probably can get your money back. Much better to go that route than having to pay for it down the line. And lastly, the final point I'll give you is the most important to me. Don't compete with other collectors. Collect at your pace and collect at your age. With that being said, I know that our community of collectors range from very young to rather old. And with that being said, we are all at different phases of life. You should never get stuck in a rut if you're a younger collector with a fixed income or an older collector with a fixed income saying, okay, I need to have 10 Hot Toys a month. Don't do that. Collect for you. Collect because you want to collect it. Don't try to keep up with somebody and said, oh my goodness, my buddy on Facebook, my buddy on Instagram got a new figure. I have to get one too. Collect because you want to collect, and I promise you this hobby will be a lot more rewarding for you in the end. Well, that's going to do it. We've officially completed this reissue. Maybe you learned something, maybe you didn't, but let me know down below if there's anything that you heard here today that could help you in your collecting game. That's going to do it for us today. Make sure to like and subscribe to this channel if you've not done so already. And as always, I will be seeing you in our next video.